GeogAtoZ supporting the National Festival of Fieldwork from the Geographical Association. C is for compass. Just imagine you're stood on the top of this hill and you're imagining the North Pole is 2,722 miles away. And then imagine you're stood in your school playground. What's north of there? So, one great resource today is to consider from your playground where north is. Consider the cardinal points. Consider the sense of scale and connection that this could provide for you or your children. Where are the nearest roads, the nearest settlements, green spaces, and water? Would we get to water sooner if we went north or south or east or west? Do you know? Well, we need to use maps to find out, and that's the great resource we're going to use. And what water would that be that you would find? How near is that settlement or borough compared to others? So using this tool distance.to online, you can map where the water is near to you, where the water is in relation to the different settlements that you might find. So imagine you're going north. We're going to use London for this example. We're stood in a playground in London and we're considering what different locations are north of here. So we need to start small, we need to start local, we need to look at the local roads. So maybe we're on a street called the Strand and the nearby streets called Duncannon Street. There's another street the children may go along called William Street, Chandos Place, Bridges Place, and so on. So we connect where we are to local streets near to us, the streets around the perimeter of the school, the streets that they will know and have used on many occasions. But then, of course, we start to go further afield and think about, well, what's the high street? What's the street the secondary school's on? The street that the place of worship is on? So how does north connect to different locations that they may know? And then we start to consider streets a little bit further afield, maybe other significant streets where there's a football stadium, where the swimming pool is, where the centre of town is. So we start to connect where we are in our school playground to other northern locations they may have come across. And then again, we go a little bit further and we start to think about parks and canals and main stations and so on, all of the time thinking, well, what's north of here? How does where we are now connect to these other places north from here? And then we go further and further afield. We start to think about other major rivers, maybe high places, mountains, things you may see in the distance. Some of these may be significant buildings that are quite some distance away, some other landmark like a big, tall tower, or maybe it's a mobile phone mast, maybe it's something else that you can see from your school. Of course, you could get high in your school. You could go on the roof, maybe, possibly. You could go upstairs if you're in the infants and you could see from a distance the lie of the land from where you are. But all of the time thinking, well, what is north of here? What are the pieces of woodland that are nearby? What are the major cities that are further north from where you are? All of the time starting from your playground. And you connect it to the wider geography of your region, and you think about the different locations near there, and then eventually you start to connect it to the places that you get towards the coast, the harbours, the ports, and the other different locations that you may hit. Of course, if you're in London, as soon as you hit the water, you keep on going north, and as you can see there, there's nothing else before you get to the polar regions.